Alright, next part of the CR125 mini bike project. Now the radiators finally got here. This is the radiator for the CBR 125. I think it's a little bit too small. Let's go with the bigger one. Bigger one is for a Honda CBR 300. This is roughly the same size as the two radiators for this engine. If you put those two radiators together, this is roughly the same size. It's a little bit smaller, a little bit thinner. I'm hoping this thing has enough cooling capacity for this engine. I do not want to overheat this engine. I'm hoping that just because this thing's just out in the open, it's going to get a little bit better airflow. So hopefully we don't cook this engine, but worst case, we can always put a bigger radiator on if we need to. Now, I know you guys had some concerns about how I'm going to mount this onto the mini bike, just mounting it onto the front forks and having it turn with the steering. You guys had concerns about not being able to steer, how the radiator hose is going to go, all that kind of stuff. I have an idea on how it's going to work. I didn't just, say that with no plan or no idea whatsoever. I have an idea on how to make it work. If it doesn't work, we can always mount it to the front neck of the frame. So therefore it just kind of hovers in front of the bike and it doesn't turn with the steering. That's always the second option to do, but let's just see if the first option works. Look at that. It is actually working. There's no binding, there's no pinching, there's no pulling. There's no pulling on these. It's working, it's out of the way. I'd say that this is going to work beautifully. So I'd say let's move on to working on the gas tank. Alright, so gas tanks are almost finished. Now, I decided to make 2 of them. I'll explain why in a second. But, I feel like my welds have gotten a lot better. I don't know if you guys can see that. I know they're not perfect. They're still not perfect, but they're a lot better than the other gas tank that I just built. So I'm pretty happy about that. Now, we still need to do the pressure test, which is simply just charge these things 10 to 15 psi of compressed air, spray these things with soapy water, make sure there's no leaks. If there are leaks, just simply re-go over them with weld and patch up any little pinholes or any cracks that I left. Alright, so last night I did a pressure test with both gas tanks, and the top one only had 2 pinholes, so I guess I'm getting a little better at TIG welding aluminum. So now, honestly, I'm not really liking the look of the top gas tank. When I look at it, the word bulbous comes to mind. It's boxy, I don't really like it, but the reason I built it this big is because I want to have as much gas tank capacity on this bike as possible, because the CR125 dirt bike that this engine is off of has a gas tank capacity of 3.5 gallons. Looking at this gas tank, it could maybe hold a gallon. That is why I built 2 gas tanks. Top gas tank drains directly into the bottom gas tank, and then the bottom gas tank drains directly into the carburetor. So collectively, it's one gas tank. It's 2 different compartments, and between the 2, they probably have a gas capacity of 1.5 gallons. So, 1.5 gallons versus 3.5 gallons on a CR125. I'm hoping this thing's gonna have enough gas to be able to go on long off-road trips and not run out. Worst case, we always have a back rack. We can always strap down a gas can on the back. That's it. That's always plan B. But now that the gas tanks are finally finished, assembled, and on the frame, you guys know what that means. We can finally disassemble the entire frame, weld everything together, reassemble it, and then start working on adding fluids, getting the rear brakes finalized, adding the clutch lever, adding all the kind of stuff we need to try and get this thing to fire up for the first time. Alright, so we just finished welding together the frame. Now before we start reassembly, we first need to do something to the engine. Now, when I rebuilt this thing over a year ago, I made a mental note reminding myself that I did install the clutch pads dry, and before trying to start this engine, I need to take the clutch pads out, soak them in oil, reinstall them, and then fill this thing full of oil so therefore we don't burn the clutch pads. So once we do that, then we can finally start reassembling the frame. Alright, so we kind of had an issue with the engine that I kind of had to fix. When I put the sprocket on this axle and when I spun the sprocket, this spacer that goes in between the sprocket and the bearing was stationary. It wasn't spinning with the sprocket. Now, I wasn't really sure what was going on, so I took this stuff off, and upon further investigation, found out that this axle was spinning on the bearing. The bearing wasn't able to turn, and this axle was just spinning on it. So I took the seal off, kind of destroyed it, taking it off. Once I took it off, then the bearing was able to spin freely. So I think this thing was just pushed in a little bit too far and pressing against the bearing, not really allowing it to spin. So good thing I have a new seal. I'll be able to put this one in the right way this time. So really glad I found that out. Really glad I noticed that, because I think running this engine with that problem would have definitely destroyed something. Fixed and working beautifully, like it should. Alright, let's talk about the gas tank for a little bit. Now, when I built this, the top one, I really didn't care about looks. I just kind of threw it together, just wanted to make something that holds gasoline, have a big gas capacity, and kind of just threw this thing together so I could move on with this project. Now, I did a post on Instagram showing the progress, showing everything off, and you guys definitely didn't really have anything nice to say about the top gas tank. So, you know, I will admit this is not the prettiest gas tank. I didn't really make it for looks, but you know, it is definitely, I could have made something a little bit prettier. So once I saw the negative comments, or not really negative, more just, they weren't really positive. Once I saw the not positive comments on Instagram of this thing, I decided to go ahead and design and build a new one. Here's a new one. It looks, I will admit, this thing looks a lot better. Definitely took my time with this one, made it look like a gas tank, and you know, pretty happy with how it turned out. I think it looks a lot better than the first one. So honestly, I'm glad that I decided to make a second one, because this one just looks so much better, and it makes this whole project look better. So you can definitely see it's not finished. I still, you know, need a couple days worth of work to get this thing finished. Now, as well as crap all over this one, you guys also pointed out on Instagram a major design flaw that I had overlooked with having two gas tanks connected with one gas line. That issue simply is gasoline is not going to flow into a container where air cannot escape. And with having just one gasoline line connecting the top gas tank to the bottom one, the bottom gas tank is either not going to get any gas flow, or it's going to have to, air's going to have to go through while gasoline's trying to go down, so it's not a good design. I didn't think of that. Really glad you guys said that, because I didn't even think about that. So, once you guys said that, I started working on machining a bunch of these. These are basically the same thing. I welded them to the bottom gas tank. They're just, you weld them on the side, drill a hole on the side, and the hose comes out sideways. One of them is going to be preventing air from the bottom to the top gas tank, so therefore air can vent out the cap. The other one is going to be seeing how much gasoline we have in both gas tanks, because it's going to be top one's going to be on the very top, bottom one's going to be on the very bottom, and we're going to be using clear gasoline line, so therefore we can see what level and how much gasoline we have in both gas tanks. So really glad you guys pointed that problem out, because I did not see that. So that would have been a major issue that I had overlooked. Now I did want to finish this thing in this, not really, I wanted to get it running in this video, but we still need another couple days worth of work to get to that point, and it's Friday today. I need to upload this video on Sunday. I need like another 2 days worth of work on the gas tank alone, and then probably another couple days to finalize everything, get the throttle hooked up, finish the rear brake, hook the clutch up, finish the radiator, finish the engine, get the engine all squared away, get the radiator all squared, and get the muffler all squared away. So there's still a lot of work left I need to do to get to that point. So unfortunately we're not going to be able to do that in this video. No promises, but I'm going to at least try and get this thing running in the next video. But for now, I got to end this video here. Thank y'all for watching. I'll see ya in the next video. Oh, don't drop. Oh. Oh, that stinks. Oh. Yeah, don't ever lay the hot torch on fabric. Don't ever. Dang it, this is my only cup in this size. Ah. Man, that didn't want to come off. My Lord. Wow. I don't know if you guys can you see it? I doubt it. Yeah, this thing didn't want to come off.